23. The flying horse landed on the slope of the volcano beside the nearest pothole. Fergus jumped down and rushed to the entrance. "Hello?" he called. "Hello? Hello? Hello?" His own voice echoed back. "Is anyone there? Horace, Mouse, Sylvie, Spike, can you hear me? Hear me? Hear me?" It was no good. Uncle Theo might have told him not to take part in any heroics, but his friends were in danger. He couldn't just leave them there, could he? Without a second thought, Fergus fell to his knees and crawled into the hole. The first thing that struck him was the air. It was oven hot and so thick with smoke that Fergus could barely see his hands in front of his face. Ahead of him, the tunnel seemed to plunge down almost vertically into blackness. Slowly and carefully, he lowered himself down, his feet and shoulders braced against the jagged rock. Soon he found himself in complete darkness. The sound of his breathing loud in his head against the distant roaring of the volcano far below. The deeper Fergus went, the hotter it became, and the pungent fumes caught in his throat and made his eyes water. It took all his strength and concentration to stop himself from slipping and plunging down into the inky depths. Not even the tunnel exercise had prepared him for this. Suddenly, the rock beneath his left foot crumbled and fell away in a clattering shower of rock shards. Fergus felt himself falling. "Oh!" The wind was completely knocked out of him as he hit the rocky floor at the bottom of the shaft. Shaking his head to clear his thoughts, Fergus looked about him. Ahead, the narrow tunnel snaked away, its walls bathed in the fiery glow of the volcano. The vertical drop, the levelling out into a narrow tunnel. Fergus knew this place. It was bigger, hotter, and far more frightening than the tunnel in the ballast, but there was no doubt this was the Devil's Pot. "Spike! Spike!" Fergus called. "Spike, are you there?" There was no reply, only the constant roaring noise of the fiery volcano. Taking a deep breath and summoning up all his courage, Fergus crawled forward towards the sound of the inferno. The tunnel grew narrower and narrower. Fergus hurt his elbows and shins as he scrambled and squeezed his way along it. But though twice as hot and 4 times as long as the tunnel in the ballast, he was determined that the real Devil's Pot was not going to defeat him. At last, grazed and gasping for breath, Fergus squeezed round the last bend and stopped. In front of him was the most spectacular sight he had ever seen. He was standing in a huge vaulted chamber that shimmered with dazzling light. Reds, purples, iridescent blues, luminous yellows and greens all danced and swirled in a hypnotic kaleidoscope of colour. The walls and ceiling seemed to be made up of countless intricate crystals, as if the entire cave had been dipped in sugar. Fergus reached out and touched the cavern wall. With a faint click, a crystal fell into his hand, and Fergus found himself staring at a flawless, perfectly formed fire diamond. "Fergus?" came a voice behind him. "Fergus, is that you?" Fergus spun round and squinted into the dazzling brightness. Someone was stumbling towards him along the ledge that ran round the cavern walls. Someone small, someone with a black bob and dark eyes. "Mouse!" he cried. "It is you," said Mouse. "Oh, Fergus, they cut the rope. I could have died." Fergus hugged his friend and turned to see Spike and Horace hurrying towards them from the opposite sides of the cavern. "Fergus, what are you doing here?" said Horace, his face and clothes black with soot. "It's a long story," Fergus said. "I'll tell you later." He paused. "Where's Sylvie?" he said. "She was with me a moment ago," said Spike, looking round. "She's in a bit of a state. The corkscrew really took it out of her." "She's in a state," said Fergus. "What about you, Spike?" There was a nasty gash on Spike's forehead. His knees were grazed and bloody, and he was clutching his right arm tightly to his chest. "Oh, it's nothing," he said bravely. "Just a little fall back there in the devil's pot." Just then there came a piercing scream. "Help! Help!" "Sylvie!" Spike shouted. "Sylvie, where are you?" "Here," she called back. "Hurry, please." "It came from over there," said Fergus, peering through the bright, shimmering light. "Quick, follow me." They made their way as quickly as they could along the narrow ledge, fire diamonds clinking and dropping to the ground as they brushed past. All at once Fergus came to an abrupt halt. He could go no further. The ledge in front of him had fallen away. Far below, a great lake of molten lava seethed, belching out clouds of acrid smoke. "Fergus! Fergus, is that you?" came Sylvie's tearful voice. I'm stuck, Fergus." On either side of her, the ledge had given way, and Sylvie was marooned on the one narrow section that remained. Below her, the molten lava bubbled and plopped. Beside her, a crack was slowly zigzagging across the centre of the jutting ledge, threatening to break it off at any moment and send the whole lot hurtling down into the infernal cauldron. "Stand back," said Fergus in a whisper to Horace, Mouse and Spike. "I'll try and calm her down." Spike, for one, looked as if he wanted to launch himself across the gap to rescue Sylvie there and then, despite his injured arm, but Mouse put a hand on his shoulder. "Don't do anything silly, Spike. That ledge could give way at any moment," she said. "Let Fergus handle this." Spike turned away and kicked the cavern wall with frustration. A shower of glittering fire diamonds cascaded down into the lava below. I can't move," Sylvie wailed, tears streaming down her face. "My legs won't work." "Listen to me, Sylvie," Fergus called, trying to sound calm and reassuring. "You have to jump across to us. Horace and I will catch you. You must be very brave, Sylvie, and trust us." "I can't," wailed Sylvie, the tears coming thick and fast. "Oh, I'm so stupid and useless." "You can, Sylvie," Fergus insisted. "You're not stupid. You're not useless. You're the best in gym class. Everyone knows that. Why, you can jump further than any of us. You know you can." "You can certainly jump further than me, you long-legged giraffe," urged Horace, trying to smile. "But I'm better at catching any day. Come on, Sylvie." He spread his arms wide. "You can do it." "Close your eyes and imagine you're back in gym class," said Fergus. The crack on Sylvie's ledge inched towards her. Sylvie closed her eyes. "Then take a deep breath." Sylvie took a deep breath. "Now jump!" Sylvie let out a little squeal and jumped. Ah! The next moment the ledge gave way and hurtled down into the molten lake of lava below. "Gotcha!" cried Horace and Fergus together as Sylvie landed in a heap on top of them. For a moment they remained frozen in a big hug, Mouse and Spike included. "I knew you could do it," came Fergus's voice from the midst of the huddle. "You saved me again, Fergus," Sylvie replied. "I'm the spare," said Fergus. "That's my job." Just then there came an ominous creak and the ledge beneath their feet gave a sickening lurch. Behind them, in the direction from which they'd come, another section of ledge collapsed in a glittering shower of fire diamonds. The molten lava boiled and spat with renewed fury, and the little group was enveloped in great billowing clouds of sulphurous smoke. "That's torn it," exclaimed Spike. "We're trapped," gasped Mouse. "What are we going to do?" Horace croaked. "Fergus!" wailed Sylvie. I stuttered Fergus. I don't know. Whenever Fergus thought back to that awful moment, the sulphurous smoke, the bubbling lava, the blinding light and suffocating heat, he could never quite remember exactly what happened next. And when they talked of it later, none of the children could agree. "One moment you were there, Mouse," Sylvie remembered. "The next, you'd gone." "No, I was there and you disappeared," Mouse interrupted. "I thought it was you taking my hand and leading me towards the tunnel," said Horace. "I thought it was you," Spike replied. "I remember being lifted up," said Fergus, "and the next thing, I was climbing up a tunnel, and I remember thinking, this isn't the Devil's Pot." "Or the corkscrew," said Sylvie. "Or the glory hole," laughed Horace. "And certainly not the Big Dipper," added Mouse. But there was one thing they could all agree on: the incredible feeling of joy and elation that washed over each and every one of them as, one by one, they reached the end of the tunnel and stumbled outside. Night had fallen, and a huge full moon shone down brightly on the clearing where they had emerged. Fergus collapsed to the ground and gulped in huge lungfuls of air. Beside him, the others did the same. Spike was the first to climb to his feet. "We did it!" he exclaimed. "We escaped!" And the 5 boys and girls cheered so loudly that the parakeets roosting in the nearby trees flapped their wings and screeched indignantly. It was only when they stopped cheering and sat down once more that Fergus realised that they were not alone. Looking up, he found himself staring into the amused eyes of a weather-beaten figure. His wild hair, huge beard and ragged clothes silhouetted against the moon, making him look like a neglected scarecrow. "Lucky for you that I found you when I did," the man said. Fergus stood up unsteadily. "Who are you?" he asked gently. "Yes," said the others, gathering round. "Who are you?" "A poor shipwrecked sailor," the man replied. "I must have been shipwrecked many years ago, but I'm afraid I've no memory of that at all. I woke up on this beach back there after a terrible eruption, and I've been here ever since. Know every inch of Old Smoky up there, including the fire caverns, and if there's one thing I've learned, it's that the fire caverns are no place for children. Can't imagine what you thought you were doing in there." "Fire diamonds," said Fergus. "They're the cause of all this. I wish I'd never heard of them." The other children all nodded their agreement, and Sylvie blew her nose loudly. "Fire diamonds," said the man. "You mean these?" He emptied his ragged pockets and held out his hands. They gleamed with fiery, glowing stones. "Oh, they're pretty enough," he said, "but absolutely useless. You can't eat them for a start." He grinned. "Now, the macadamia nut. That's a different story. Worth its weight in gold it is. Absolutely delicious. And the strangest thing is, every time I taste one, I get the most peculiar feeling, though I can't quite put my finger on it." "You'd better come with us," said Fergus, taking the man's hand gently. "Why?" said the man. "Because," said Fergus, "you're a shipwrecked sailor, and we've got a ship to sail." The stranger smiled. "Then I'm your man," he laughed.